So thank you. Thanks again for all the knowledge and the wisdom you shared with us. Please feel free to engage. We have Jim and Atik again ready to get your questions to our speakers with any language, any way you would like them to ask. I'd like to, just to challenge, I have 4 very smart people with me. I'd like to hear a few seconds from each one of you. What's the one thing that you believe digital transformation is impacting our lives with? Zainab.
So I believe digital transformation is impacting our life big time, but in everything that we do daily. The latest is AI. So being able to reach any piece of information with natural language is impressive. And I believe that's part of the digital transformation. Our expectations are becoming higher and higher. And especially here in this part of the region, in Saudi, with all of the digital services that we have, including Abshir. Abshir is called at your service. And I brag with this throughout my other colleagues globally, that in here the government work for us. I mean, they're like Abshir at your service, way ahead in the digital services. And that made the expectations of people higher than you go anywhere and else they get frustrated because things are still manual, or they need to write an email or wait in a queue or something. So I guess our daily experience.
Yeah. Very well said. So pushing the boundaries. Bertrand, what's the one thing?
Is this on?
Yeah.
You can hear me? Yeah, so I guess the question was the one thing digital transformation is really, So I guess for me, it could go from a personal standpoint. My background is I'm not a software engineer. I don't have a degree in computer science, although I've used computers and computer programming my entire career. But for me, digital transformation, it's exposed me and enabled me to essentially experiment with enterprise architecture in a way I wouldn't have been able to otherwise. And to give you, say, a narrative for that, when I joined the Open Group 2.5 years ago, within several months, I was able to deploy a cloud, microservices cloud architecture on Google Cloud at the time. OSU, just for the other members in the room from Microsoft and IBM, also has cloud deployments on those respective platforms. But this digital transformation that the Open Group had embraced enabled me to deploy and run these systems. As someone who's not really an enterprise architect by profession, but still was able to deploy these systems with a little bit of brute force and sweat. And for me, that's, I think, where digital transformation is affecting my professional career, but also an organization like Net Zero Matrix and Curtis Associates, for us to quickly deploy these solutions and scale them out for various use cases, CCS being one we discussed today, but also there are many more that enables us to explore and deliver commercial solutions to the market.
Yeah, thanks. Dr. Darren?
For me, this is really interesting because I grew up with an encyclopedia where I had to go to a library and do book reports by opening up a book. And kids today don't need to do that. In fact, kids today can ask ChatGPT to write the report for them, as we all know. So the digital transformation is profoundly changing our culture. Not just us individually, but the way that we think, the way that we work and everything. It's the next 5 years are going to be really telling on what's going to happen. And organizations, if they don't change, they're not going to be relevant anymore. So you have to adopt it, or you just have no reason to be anymore.
Yeah, thanks. Amin?
Lovely stuff to hear in terms of how digital transformation is impacting us, and it's made our life easier, definitely, right? We are faster, we're quicker, we're able to get knowledge faster. But one thing I can see it's impacting us, and I feel sad about it. I'm an 80s kid, born in the times when we talk to humans, we bargain with humans, negotiate with humans. But now with technology coming, that element of humans are reducing. Perfect example, I travel a lot. And in the old days, if my luggage was 1 kilo over, I could talk to the agent nicely, they will give me and let me through. But now in this new world, I am this little machine. Sorry, sir, you are overweight, I can't do anything. I have to throw my 1 kilo out. I really hope the future has more of humans. I don't want to be in a state in 10 years we are all an AI bot sitting and talking to each other. So that's primarily where I see it.
Thanks a lot. So questions from the audience, please. Feel free to share any of your thoughts, any of the comments. Yeah? Fadal, hello.
My name is Ahmed Khaja. I'm from Saudi Aramco.
Hello, sahlan.
So one of the, I think, consensus among all the participants has been the biggest impediment in the digital transformation has been the culture. Now, in my humble opinion, this is because there is a fear factor. Now, when we talk about the culture, there's a fear of erosion of authority. There is a fear of getting yourself, like feeling insecure. How could you, what is it, like, I've heard about like Microsoft laying off 9,000 employees because of the AI, right? So this is something which is, I believe, is kind of, giving more resistance to the digital transformation. So in your opinion, what could we do, or what could be the countermeasures which we could take to have that mindset? Because otherwise, organization, one way or the other, will resist because they are feeling that they're, as you rightly pointed out, the 1 kilo has to be thrown out. so how could you, have that countermeasure?
Okay, can I take this one real quick?
Yeah, sure.
I'm glad you brought that up because that fear factor is real. And we are seeing companies lay people off. Intel's laying off 25,000. And in fact, over the last year, we've laid off 40% of our workforce. Not because of AI, because of efficiency. And I think that's what we're really finding is efficiency. But these revolutions that we've seen before resulted in more jobs and higher value jobs coming out of it. It takes time, but during this transition, it's very nerve-wracking for a lot of people. So the one thing that I hope that we can teach the world is to learn, to consistently learn and to embrace change, which is very difficult, but it does happen. Everyone will survive this AI. We're not being conquered. In fact, I have a lot of really great vision of the future where we become even more valuable to society as individuals. That individuals will have a huge impact on their communities, and that we will actually engage more human to human than we have in the past. Because a lot of the stuff that we've been doing that is kind of just mundane work will go away, and that we'll have that opportunity to actually interact at a deeper level than we ever had before.
Yeah, thanks. Any other thoughts? Amit?
Yeah, so one specific viewpoint, and I think it's spot on what Darren said, learning, training, getting the fear out, because at the end of it, any revolution, digital has enabled us to be better. But also companies have to change. I'll give you an idea of my company. I'm in the sales part of my company. My target has been revenue, profitability, and volume, people getting added, right? So which means the bigger the team, greater for me. So I'm resistant to change. I'm like, why do I need to AI? Because that's going to reduce my volume. But my company, thankfully, being AI first, changed my targets. I have revenue targets are revenue from an AI agent. I have to reduce volume, increase profitability. So it's driven different behaviors for me. I'm no longer fearing about me being different from my peers, right? And I'm already ready for the future. So I think if the organization changes that mindset, it will help. And I don't know how it is in different cultures, it varies, right? But back in India, to give an example, a person is proud to say, I lead a 200-member team. The bigger the army, the happier they are. But I think the future is not going to be about that. The future is going to be you being leaner, more faster, more agile, and that's how you're going to deliver. Once people see success, the fear will go away. It's like a child walking. He or she will walk a few times. The first time he or she walks, you can't stop them. I think that's exactly what we need in our lives, in the corporate world as well.
Yeah. Zainab?
That's a very interesting question that we always hear. Will AI take over the jobs and people and take over all of our jobs? And I would like to second Darren and the colleague here is that most of these layoffs are not necessarily due to AI. There are a lot of acquisitions. And then with acquisitions, you have to make, efficiencies and etc. And we are in the middle of a transition. It's a new era. AI is changing everything, and how we adopt it is another way of how you can become profitable and efficient as a company and competitive. So for companies, they have an incentive to adopt AI in order for them to become competitive. There are a lot of programs for skilling and reskilling for employees in Saudi and globally, and skilling is the key. So one of our main objectives, and I spend 50% of my time, actually 70% of my time, working very closely with Sedaya, with MCIT on skilling initiatives that for the community and for employees to define new jobs for those new employees and to skill the people, because today AI is changing by the day. So the key word is learning, and all of us, even internally at Microsoft, we are learning by the day, and there are some courses that keeps getting updated where we need to learn and update ourselves. Fear is there, of course. With change comes fear, but it's how can you leverage it, and what does it mean for you as a community? What does it mean for you as a country and as a company? And it shouldn't prevent you from change. And to the example of the 1 kilo and automation, that's a very interesting, example. But maybe then that process needs to be re-centered around the customers, because some of those if leveraging AI is not going to be, an operation like changing it to digitization, it's going to have to use AI to maybe give some leeways or some discussions, or where that person in their travel trip, just an idea. It's not centered around patient or around customers, I would say.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I think that's how the future is going to be. You'll have evolving AIs. But primarily, the point was like my parents, they know everybody in the village, right? And if I go, I know nobody because I pay bills online, I don't talk to anybody, etc. Right? And maybe at some point in time we'll evolve to be better and find ways to interact.
Bertrand, you want to add anything to
maybe
that?
Just a quick thought. We're talking about fear, a culture, a change in culture which is creating fear. And my view on this, coming from outside of a large organization, it's not a fear that I've experienced personally, but definitely felt the pressure that I need to learn and be flexible. Now, to achieve that, I need the resources to say, how do I become more agile? And I think as these organizations, essentially are rooting out their workforce by becoming more efficient because they have to prioritize, their bottom line, and they just don't need that same workforce anymore. They need to feed a lot of those, those gains that they're making back into the workforce, right? By education, by demonstrating through culture, like we can show you how to succeed, right? As a business. Through these technologies. Embrace these technologies, take them and deploy them, become an entrepreneur, right? And companies leading with that saying, we're freeing you from this workforce, this outdated workforce, so you can use these technologies to achieve your dreams. I think companies need to incorporate into their culture that view of growth, right? And bring that back outside of their own companies to say, listen, we can only grow from here, but we have to do that by giving back.
Yeah, thank you so much. Any other thoughts or questions? Yeah, Manuel?
Hi. Yes, this is for Dr. Darren, but we can choose who wants to answer. I was talking to a customer this week, and they were looking at me all nervous because mega digital transformation, moving one organization and splitting it to try and have an IT supporting 5 lines of business all together. So it looked like an Aramco operation. And they were saying, okay, now we realize that AI is evolved much faster than what we were expecting. And this has an impact on all our plans. We've been working for over 2 years with vendors to build RFPs and define IT stacks and solutions. And we realized that unless we intercept this at today point, we will deliver something too old, and it's a new generation stack. And I think many organizations are in this situation. I just wanted to understand how would you think about approaching for other organizations which are currently undergoing the large digital transformation. How can we inject modern innovation on the fly? Because things are changing very, very fast. I know it's a challenging question.
I have some great examples of my failures where we didn't. And some of them were catastrophes because we said, we used the old agile methodology. Well, I shouldn't say old, it's new. Hey, once a sprint has been defined, you can't change it, right? And I was in an industry at the time where change was just constant. And we were setting our sprints at 6 weeks, which was outrageously short, we thought, but it was way too long because by the time we got through the sprint, the technology that was interrupting us had completely destroyed our industry. Gone. Goodbye. So all that work we did was worthless. So these are really tough decisions that you have to look at. If you are using agile methodologies, then you restart a sprint, or we're starting to see people even abandon that and be highly reactive. I think one of the things that we're absolutely going to have to do is be a lot more adaptable to change. Look at just generative AI in general. It hit the world November 30th, 2022. That's not even 3 years old. Do you know how many architectural changes have occurred? First it was, prompt engineering. It's not prompt engineering anymore. Now it's context engineering, and RAG was all of the, everyone was doing RAG, and now RAG is so old, it's a year old, right? I'm like, come on, guys. You haven't even given me a chance to even try it out. So we have to be adaptable, but we also have to deliver. So there's got to be some point where you say, this is good enough, let's make it work. But then this is where I think true architecture needs to come into play, and why I'm such a big proponent of architecture. If I architect a solution, then swapping technologies in and out is easy, right? And what the problems that I'm seeing right now in the last 3 years, there's no architecture going on at all. People are just, something new, something shiny, try this. And that's why we're not seeing a lot of generative AI go into full enterprise production. It's a toy, still, right? It helps you write a better email to your boss when you're asking for a raise or time off. Or analyze that really long email that my boss sent me, instead of just saying, could you simplify that, please? Because I know you wrote that with Gen AI, and I don't want to read the whole thing. That's what's happening right now. You're seeing, but we're going to see some architecture come out of this. We'll start seeing some change. So you got to pay attention, but get to the fundamentals. That's what I would say.
Excellent. Any other thoughts?
Yeah. So I'll tell you a little story of what happened to us. Something similar. So we and one of our biggest energy customers decided to build a new platform for energy efficiency. It was supposed to be built on open source. We wanted to go to a polycloud option. And when we started discussions with both my company as well as my customer side, the first full stop came from enterprise security. They said, no open source, you can't deploy it on it. They gave us a lot of process documents, almost 3 to 4 months of work if you were to ever build something like that, right? We were ready, agile teams, high-scale teams, etc. And it was impossible for us to break the cloud at that point of time. Thankfully, what we got permission for was to use a startup to build the product for us. The startup was leaner, quicker, faster, and we used a lot of mock data to do it. So what happened was interesting. Within these 3 months, which ideally we would have spent time getting approvals, we ran our concept and we failed miserably, right? So that opened up both our organizations to create something fundamentally different. We created a concept called an AI garage. I was just talking about it earlier today. The AI garage is a small little institute that runs between both our companies, but not driven by the boundaries of the corporate restrictions. We have leeway, we can get outside of it, we can experiment and prove. And that's really helped us quite a bit. In fact, the last 3 months we've run 18 experiments, out of which 11 have failed already. In the old world, we could not have. And maybe, I think that's a thing many large organizations have to think, is there a way they can give some freedom to some of these experiments so they can innovate quickly? Could be a possibility.
Thanks a lot. Any other thoughts or also welcome questions? We can also get response from our speakers. So Engineer Rashid, feel free to give us your wisdom. Any other question? Yeah, thank you.
Hi again. I have a situational question for each of our leaders now today. If you have a limited budget and you are participating in digital transformation journey at, let's say, moderate maturity level, where you will spend this limited budget on for educating leaders or for adopting a new technology or solution or for upskilling and building digital capability in your team?
Upskilling, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I would go with Darren. It's actually upskilling because you can actually do that in a very low budget, in a very frugal way to really do that. Because once you upskill them, they will become the champions of your change. And in the future, they will fight for your cause. Now, if you don't do that, you're anyway going to have resistance and fail even if you have budgets. So I would actually align with Darren on this occasion.
Yeah, thank you, Zainab.
I would combine upskilling your employees with the leaders.
You have one.
You have one only.
Because it's a different approach totally,
Yeah, I guess it depends on the priorities that you have in your organization. If your leaders are not supportive of digital transformation and change, if you upskill the employees, you reach nothing, in my opinion. I think you need to start with the leadership. Upskill them, they will get you the budget.
Thank you.
To deliver the other two.
Smart answer, yeah. Yeah, there is no one size fits all. It's tailored to the priorities, but it's good.
Would like to hear also the.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, in a small organization, I would focus on my employees and building their training because our leadership is already on board with the transformation strategy. So that's not an issue for us. But again, that's a very specific context. Okay. So I would agree. Focusing on the training of the employees, even if it's limited budget, finding those high impact areas. Because if your employees can perform, then the company will perform with that. Limited resource.
Thank you very much. So 75% of leaders, they are going with bottom-up approach, and Zainab only, she is going with top-down approach for change, right?
It depends on,
Is that right?
Again, it depends on your organization. If the top are not aligned.
There is no, the situation is that you are a participation in digital transformation journey in an enterprise. They are in the way of their maturity for digital. So still you are not gaining I mentioned the educating leaders, that means they are not educated, especially other business unit, not technology, like HR, logistics. So this is the promise.
But I actually agree with her. If you don't have executive buy-in, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because
yes, there is leadership buy-in, but they are not educated in the approaches and methodologies maybe you are going to implement.
Yeah. So I think you need both.
Thank you very much.
Like if you try to perform digital transformation for HR, the HR leadership are not aligned, or finance, and they're not aligned. You cannot implement it. They will keep
I'm
resisting.
supporting you from my practices and on-the-ground experience. I support Zainab's view to start with educating leaders and keep them aware in what's going on in knowledge base.
But I've also seen leaders that had a vision and middle management torpedo it, completely destroy it, because they were going to lose control. And so if you have a visionary leader, they've been trained, they've been bought in, but you haven't upskilled the individual contributor and you haven't taken care of the middle management, it will torpedo as well. So it's a strange thing. These are especially in very large organizations.
Thank you. But I think Mr. Rashid, with the members and our colleagues in the forum, once they start their journey, maybe they will clarify some standardization for such cases. Thank you very much.
You want to add anything, Janine Rashid? Microphone, please.
Thank you very much. I think we have a really very interesting discussion, and really I'm enjoying the responses. And I think for this specific question, maybe the answer differs from company to company based on their size, based on their domain, based on their maturity. So I'm not sure there is really one specific question. From my side, what I would say maybe is a strategy, starting really with a clear vision. What is it that you want to achieve out of digital transformation? What is your direction? Where you are heading? What is the objectives that you would like to achieve? But I think great discussions. Continue the discussion. If there are more questions, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Engineer Rashid. Thanks for your thoughts. Thank you for your question.
Thank you,
yes,
everyone. Hello. Thank you, everyone. What we are talking about is in the scope of project management. They call it management of change, isn't it? So whatever we will solve under that umbrella, we are not reinventing wheels. We need to explore other framework. Open Group is not a project management. They are not producing project management framework, but they should utilize whatever are facts and practices and principles that is already there in the market. So what we are talking about now is a management of change under project management. And if that lacks the advancement or the development because of the rapid change in digital transformation, we may suggest to provide more development in that area, so it will be more helpful for the managing these changes for the digital transformation, especially in resources. Any digital, any initiative should be accompanied in management of change. Where I will go with these resources? What is the opportunities for them? Should we lay off these people, or we skill them for different area as a partner, or whatever is better for the company, for the country, for the environment? So this is my point.
And I agree with you to a point. I think the change that we're seeing with generative AI is right on the heels of a dramatic change from COVID-19. And it's whiplashing a lot of organizations. They don't know what to do about it. So it's much more than just project managing your way out of this with change. It's a fundamental way in that we do business, or the way that we interact with our citizens. And some organizations are taking advantage of these two black swan moments, is what they're called, back to back. And they're making fundamental changes in culture, in delivery mechanisms, and everything. And those that are doing this are being very successful. Those that are dragging their feet and slowing it down are finding it extremely painful, and will continue to find it painful until they're irrelevant, where they don't matter anymore. That's what I'm seeing happen. So I think it's much more than just our traditional change management. These events are too disruptive to just use the techniques that we've used in the past. That's my perspective.
Shall we elaborate more? understand your point on the importance of an independent change management approach that would complement the enterprise architectures. Yeah. So I think he's bringing up the intersection between change management and all of the digital transformation era, and I think that's important too. Any other thoughts? Yeah. John.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the panel about open source. You mentioned about open source earlier on. Now, is this the intersection? Is this the future? You know, everybody's embracing open source, but then you mentioned that your project was stopped by the enterprise architect team. Can I ask the panel how they see the future of open source development as part of digital transformation? Yeah. Because that's pretty much what the Open Group is doing.
Yes.
That one's yours, Bertrand. That's your boss, so you better have a good answer.
That's also very much, I'm very much an open source advocate. Most of my career has been focused on how to leverage open source for my growth. Obviously, that perception or approach changes based on the organization you're in, right? Because at a certain point, your software, if you're open sourcing it, you lose your commercial advantage. But I strongly believe that it's a tug of war, right? Organizations bound forward with open source, right? Industry adopts that and commercialize it. And there needs to be that dynamic. I think it's healthy. But I see in my career, I've seen a lot over the past few years, a pushback against open source development. Says, not a lot comes out of it right now. I can't commercialize it. It's just not effective within my business cycle. And I think that's part of this tug of war, where organizations have taken a step back and say, how do we rationalize this commercially within our organization? Let's not focus on open source. But for someone like myself, I'm only here today because of open source. I wouldn't be able to achieve what I have without it. But I have to deal with the same conundrum. We have to commercialize. We cannot just open source all our software. But that balance is very critical.
Well, so like Intel, for example, we have some of the largest contributor to open source software, and we don't sell software. Yeah. We sell chips. So we want people to consume as much as they can. So we love open source, right? Because it's pushing the boundaries on digital transformation, because individuals can now contribute to society in a huge way that they haven't before, and push the boundaries on traditional business models. So there are other business models that can take advantage of open source through services or additional things that can be provided, or new types of hardware, new types of chips that can be developed that can run different open source. So from my perspective, open source accelerates digital transformation and in the community as a whole. So for me, I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, just as an example, within the OSDU, we have several cloud providers, right, that offer their solutions to host the data platform to scale it, right? We run a bare metal version of that, which is purely open source. Now that's really useful from a development perspective, right? That increases access to the technology and the ability of companies to develop solutions quickly. But this feeds directly into the commercial strategies of these big cloud service providers, because when you need to scale that solution, right, you're going to have a hard time doing that just with open source components.
Absolutely, and that's when you sell your services.
Yeah.
Yep. Zainab, what's the opinion of Microsoft?
No, Microsoft supports open source. So maybe I didn't highlight it through the transformation. After Steve Ballmer, when Satya, that was a huge support, and we have the largest open source platform, GitHub. And interestingly enough, I was part of an initiative by the government, DGA. We're looking in Saudi, looking at open source and how can we enhance open source in Saudi Arabia. And we were looking at the different countries and their experiences. And one of the big countries that actually the governments are leveraging open source is Japan. And interestingly enough is my colleague who's, I'm NTO, National Technology Officer at Microsoft. So there is one in every country or a group of countries. And we're like 40 people globally. So my colleague who's in Japan is actually leading a collaboration with Japanese government in open source. He's working at Microsoft, but he's also working at the government. It's a setup that doesn't exist anywhere in the world, but it seems for the uniqueness of the appetite of the Japan and the government and all of that, that was there. Now looking at open source here in Saudi, one of the you should look at it as a complete ecosystem. It's not just leveraging open source. So if you want to adopt open source, who are the vendors or the technology providers who are going to provide this and sustain it and make sure that updates are provided and all of, and that's one of the gaps here. And this is one of, in a previous life, I actually implemented open source Odoo for our ERP in Munshaat, and we leveraged open source. But one of the weaknesses here is who are the partners who can, or the vendors who can support it, how can you take it further? So you go to the commercialization model. It's not a completely 100% open source. It's open source, but it needs that commercial coverage in order to incentivize everyone to actually maintain the business running. And that's very important consideration.
Yeah, that's behind the open source. The open group, I would say, impact is relying on the open source vendor-neutral platform, and that's how they are winning and they are succeeding as building this ecosystem, as you mentioned. So this is amazing. Maybe later we're going to hear from the open group on the importance of their mission. I wouldn't have imagined you had done this impact if it wasn't an open source, right? You agree with me? Any other final questions? So if there are no questions, I would like to thank you so much for such an insightful, for your thoughts, for your wisdom, for inspiring us all to drive carefully, thoughtfully, meaningfully digital transformation so that we can touch on people, on quality of life, on climate, and on the future of our workforce, our youth, and our generations. Thank you so much.